grab your butt cheeks. This is going to be a big episode today. I'm going to try to keep it under 20 minutes. I'm going to try to wrap it up quickly so it's still actionable, not overwhelming, and not too long for a commute, but we have a big one. We are going to give you the entire nutrition coaching system that I use with my clients to the best of my ability. I'm going to unleash it all on you today. So make sure you stay tuned and welcome back to the Health Rebels Podcast. The Health Rebels Podcast is hosted by me, Steve Hicks, and here at Health Rebels, we are the anti-fitness solution for lasting weight loss and lifelong wellness. Anti-fitness, what does that mean? Well, that simply means that the fitness industry has failed. The fitness industry has failed to help the everyday person find that path to health and wellness, to find that path to lasting weight loss, and to find that path to the good life. But what we do here at Health Rebels is we redefine health standards that are realistic and really stick so that you can have the energy and the confidence to step fully into your best life. Anyway, one of the big fitness standards that we break away from is counting calories. I hate calorie counting. There's a lot of reasons I hate it. I bet you hate it too. I hope you hate it too if you're here at the Health Rebels Podcast. But counting calories, it's really, really stupid practice. It's really stupid practice. There's several reasons for this. The biggest one is it sucks. Nobody likes it. Nobody likes the tracking, the counting, the recording in MyFitnessPal, the measuring of foods. It sucks. It's a tedious process. It's an obsessive compulsive way to live life. It's neurotic. I hate that. I'm not going to force some type of obsession around food and neurotic behaviors on my clients. I'm not going to force them into disordered eating through calorie counting and being obsessed about every little transaction they have in their eating profiles. I'm not going to do that. That's not a helpful process. If you think about going back to high school, most people did not like high school math class. Putting them in high school math class every single day to have good nutrition is just a stupid proposition and is setting people up for fail. The second big one, outside of behavioral and outside of psychological reasons, is it doesn't make any sense physiologically. If you know what a calorie is, you know that it's not a physical substance. A calorie is a unit of measure that measures the degree, the temperature change in water in a very contained thing. I rambled on that. A calorie, the official definition, is the amount of energy it takes to increase 1 gram of water or 1 ounce of water by 1 degree Celsius, right? It's a measure of heat energy. It's a measure of heat energy. It's a measure of thermic energy. It's really, really used in the fuel mining industry. When they get a new fuel mine or coal mine, they'll burn the fuel that they dig up or they find, and they'll measure how much calorie output it has to know how efficiently that source of fuel burns, how much they have to mine, and what's the worth of the fuel that they're coming up with. They do this through an instrument called a bomb calorimeter, which is a very insulated instrument. It's got some water in it. You put the fuel source in, you light that fuel source on fire, and then the heat that comes off the fire heats up the water. You measure the change in the water temperature, and you figure out how much energy is put off by that fuel source. The biggest problem here is that your body is not a combustion chamber. Your body does not burn food, so the thermic energy of food is not super relevant in a biological discussion. It's not super relevant on the individual biology. It's useful when you're trying to compare populations and cultural groups on other sides of the globe to try to get a similar conversation or some sort of measure that can be unified across populations. But for the individual, it has no effect on your biology. There are no receptors in your body that detect calories because calories don't exist. There are no functions in your body that are affected by calorie input because calories don't exist. There's no system in your body that is impacted by calories because calories don't exist. Your body functions on a bunch of chemical and electrical reactions. So I'd much rather have conversations about the chemical substances in food or the electrical impulses that happen through exercise and mindset and sleep, right? I would much rather talk about what's actually occurring in your body rather than try to reduce everything into some sort of comparative across populations. It doesn't make sense on the individual. It doesn't have any bearing on a biological discussion. So we're not going to count calories. And then finally, the third thing is just looking at the practice of it. People that count calories get short-term effects, but it never sticks. It never sticks. Those in the industry, my colleagues that promote calorie counting, they always try to position, well, it's not a habit I want you to maintain, but it's a learning experience. You're supposed to learn habits from it. If you're trying to learn habits, just start with the damn habits, right? Doesn't that make more sense? So the big thing is I'd much rather focus on the habits. The people that focus on calorie counting, the clients that focus on calorie counting, it only works as long as you count calories. And we see in the surveys, we see in the studies, we see the recidivism, we see the fall off, right? In various surveys and studies, 85 to 95% of people that lose weight on weight loss programs regain that weight back. We need to stop saying that counting calories works when there's a 95% fail rate. We need to stop saying that, right? We want to look at long-term habits, long-term behavioral change, and counting calories is not there, right? So speaking of the habits, I mentioned if we're trying to teach people new habits, why don't we just start there? And that's where the nutrition by addition system comes in. What we're going to do is we're going to focus on adding positive habits throughout the day so that you can add more energy, more nutrients, more vitality to your life and to your body. Now, if you're just on the audio, don't see the video, you might not know that I'm out on a walk. I do like walk and talk podcasts. I'm going uphill. So if I huff and puff, I promise I'm not out of shape. I'm just talking too much while walking up a hill. So anyway, nutrition by addition. It's a very deliberate name choice. The reality is when we think about nutrition or diets most often, we think about elimination. We think about restrictions. We think about cutting down, right? If you think about like the keto diet, it's about eliminating carbs. If you think about vegan diets, that's about eliminating meats. If you think about low carb, it's about cutting carbs down. Sugar-free diets is about eliminating sugar. Right? All diets and nutrition really tend to revolve around this idea of restriction, taking away, elimination, right? It's always negative, right? It's always taking away. And what I want to do instead is flip the conversation. I want to make nutrition by addition. I want to focus on not what do you take away, but what do you add to a plate? What do you add to a meal to make that a healthy meal, right? And in that regards, we're going to do 3 things. Well, 4 things. There's 5 things that you add. 3 of them we're going to quantify. 1 of them is occasional and 1 of them is kind of a bonus. The 3 things that make up the base of the nutrition by addition focus is going to be carbs. Yes, I do want you to add carbs. Adding carbs into your nutrition can increase your energy levels. It can also help regulate mood levels, and it can help regulate sleep at night as well. I do want to add carbs, right? Second is thinking about adding proteins. You probably already heard 1,000 times the benefits of protein. I'm not going to run through that again, but protein does a tremendous amount of things, and I almost ran through a bunch of benefits there, but we don't have enough time today. But we do want to add protein. And then last and most importantly, we want to add plants, your fruits and your vegetables. Now, you'll notice that that's a pretty broad category, pretty broad speaking. And I would like that. I like it that way. I don't like to give clients specific meal plans. Again, behavioral, focusing on things that stick. If we give people specific meal plans, those meal plans only work as long as someone sticks with that meal plan. By giving people categories and portion sizes, it gives you flexibility and adaptability where you can change the food based on personal preference or based on situational availability. Sometimes you're going to be in a situation and you're not going to have access to the same foods, but you'll always pretty much have access to those 3 categories. You can make adjustments on the fly if you want to stay on plan. We'll talk more about what happens if you don't want to stay on plan, but those are the 3 big categories that are going to make the base of the nutrition system. It's going to be protein, carbs, and plants. Now, the second part of the plan is going to be, as I mentioned earlier, it's food categories and it's portion sizes. Portion sizes, I want to also make it super actionable, super easy, super convenient. Oftentimes when you get meal plans, you'll see people talk about, 6 ounces of fish, or they'll talk about 1.5 cups of oats. And it'll require some external measuring equipment that you don't always have, right? If you're at a restaurant, you're not going to have access to a food scale. You're not going to know what 6 ounces looks like. If you're at your brother's for a barbecue, you're not going to have access to measuring cups. You're not going to be able to measure out how much watermelon you're eating, right? So all our portion sizes are going to be based around your hand size. It's going to be based around your hand size because it turns out most people, when they travel, they take their hands with them, right? So it's useful. It's applicable in more situations. And the second thing that's really good about hand size is, for the vast majority of people, your hand's going to be pretty proportional with your food intake needs, right? People with bigger bone structures tend to need a little bit more food, a little more energy needs, and with bigger bone structures come slightly bigger hands, right? Usually when people need a little bit more, they don't need twice as much as someone else. They don't need to massive big increase. It's like 10%. And the hand sizes get about that 10% adjustment across populations. So it allows us to personalize the serving size to fit your individual needs instead of just giving generic answers that might not apply to you at all. So it's applicable in more situations and it's more personally driven. So those 3 categories, let's talk about them real quick. Carbs are gonna fall into this weird category where they're semi-optional. I'm not going to get into much of the physiology for that right now because I do want to try to keep this episode to 20 minutes while giving you a lot of information. But carbs have the most flexibility on how much you have throughout the day. I'm going to recommend everybody has at least 1 serving of carbohydrates throughout the day. If you're more active, especially if you're more active with aerobic activity, then we're going to bump that up to 2 to 3 servings, depending on those meals, right? Depending on your activity levels throughout the day, we'll add or subtract carbohydrates. But everyone gets a base at least once a day. So we're going to call carbs kind of the optional serving size. And then for lower needs, your lower needs on carbs is going to be about the size of a fist, a closed fist. That's going to be a good carb serving for just baseline low energy needs. If you have higher energy needs, you're going to be at about 1.5 fists. 1.5 fists, possibly up to 2 fists if you're like training for a marathon or something where you're super aerobic in your training. Now, I did say lower and higher energy needs. In case you're wondering, how do you determine higher and lower energy needs? There are a couple rule of thumbs. The first, the easiest, the most broad stroked one is gonna be males typically have higher energy needs, females typically have lower energy needs. So if you're a man, probably go for the 1.5 fists. If you're a woman, probably start at that fist. Now again, we did talk about activity levels. If you're a woman and you have super high activity levels, you might be needing that high energy needs, right? Also, if you're a woman and you have a fairly large body structure, if you're taller, if your bone structure is a little bit thicker, then we'll be on the higher energy needs. On the same side, if you're a man and you're a little bit on the shorter side or you have a smaller skeletal structure, you might be more on the low energy needs. Play it out, see how you feel, see how your results go, and feel free to adjust. But generally speaking, Carbohydrates, low energy needs is about a fist. High energy needs about a fist and a half to 2 fists once or more per day, depending on activity levels. Protein. For low energy needs, we're going to be looking at your palm. That's going to be your hand without your fingers. Sorry, I've been walking and talking for a while. Starting to get a little dry mouth out here in the woods. But protein, we're going to be looking for a palm. That is your hand without the fingers. And it's also going to be the same as the width of your palm. So if you have, the palm should be about 1.5 inches thick. So if you're looking at that circle, we're not looking at like the filet mignon steak that's 4 inches thick. That's going to be like 2-3 palms, right? But for protein, low energy needs, you're looking for a palm. For high energy needs, you're looking 1.5 palms to 2 palms. And then both populations, high and low energy needs, for plants, your fruits or vegetables, that serving, you're going to be looking for 2 cupped hands full or more. So as if you're cupping your hands to try to get a drink of water out of the river, that's how much plants you should have on your plate at each meal. Now, plants have extra wiggle room. If you're extra hungry, if you need something that's a little bit more satisfying, a little more filling, you can overeat on plants. That's kind of what I use with clients to kind of help manage hunger, help manage satisfaction and satiety. Plants is where we can kind of overeat on that one. So those 3 categories for a balanced meal. We're looking for carbs at least once or more a day. And that's going to be a fist for low energy, 1.5 fists to 2 fists for high energy needs. 2, we're looking at protein. That's going to be a palm for low energy or 1.5 palms to 2 palms for high energy needs. The third one is plants, 2 cupped handfuls or more each meal, right? So that's how we start off with the base level for meals. In my nutrition system, I am a big fan of meal timing and kind of getting 3 to 5 meals a day. So we're going to give everyone 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, trying to incorporate those categories and those portions. The second thing that we need to talk about is timing. I believe in meal timing, not because it's physiologically superior, but in behaviors we see with clients, people operate better when they're kind of full throughout the day or when they're satisfied throughout the day. When we go long periods without eating, that's when we become more prone to binges or overeating or low energy and lethargic and skipping workouts. Better behaviors, better decisions happen when we regularly eat and provide for ourselves. So I am a big fan of snacking. So a snack, I don't have super hardline recommendations for a snack, but you're gonna have essentially a half meal. It's gonna be half of what a normal meal is. We're gonna try to make sure that there's protein at each one, at each snack, and then maybe some plants, maybe some carbs, depends on what you have available, right? So pretty common snack options. What I usually do, if you don't have allergies, some mixed nuts and some fruit can be a great one. An apple and nut butter is a great option. Cottage cheese can be a great option with a couple pieces of grape with some fruit on that. I apparently like to snack on fruit now that I think about it a lot. That tends to be my go-to. Yeah, but just smaller, about a half meal option. Right? And the purpose of snacking, again, like we mentioned, it's just to manage behavior, manage hunger, and manage energy throughout the day. If you don't have the snacks, what often happens is that people just feel lethargic. It leads to poor decision making and it leads to poor quality of life from there. I just want you to feel the best all the time. Let's see, what else do we want to talk about? And then in the nutrition system, we also talk about hydration. Water intake is a very divided part in the nutrition world. There's not really great definitive research. The numbers always seem to change. The standard used to be 8 cups of consumed water each day, which included water from food sources. So like I mentioned, I'm a big fan of fruit. If you have a lot of watermelon, as the name denotes, it's a juicy substance. There's a lot of water content in there. If you have a lot of dried food or like grilled meats, especially when it's cooked to be like well done instead of over medium, that I talked about eggs. Anyway, if you cook your steak like well done instead of medium rare, then you're gonna have less water content, right? You kind of cook that water out. Originally the standard, the 8 cups was 8 cups consumed, all sources, whether drunk or eaten. And then it expanded into something, it's just, the numbers always change. There's no real good baseline for it. There's really no great hydration standards that's honest in the research, honest in physiology, honest in biology. But what I give clients, the recommendations that I give is good hydration. That means drinking throughout the day to the point that you should be having about 4 to 6 bathroom trips throughout the day with a fairly clear discharge. That's the best recommendation that I can find overall that's really honest. If you want to put a little bit extra, a little number on top of that, I don't think the 8 cups of drink water is a bad idea. I don't think even up to 100 ounces is a bad idea. The gallon of water a day is a little excessive. You don't need that. I've seen the big pitchers that are like massive jugs of water, like drink this by 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. Not a big pusher on that. But do drink throughout the day. Do have some bathroom trips throughout the day. It should be a moderately clear discharge as well. That's as precise on the hydration as I really can honestly get. But hydration is part of the nutrition because it does help with digestion. It does help with body functions, and it does help with energy levels. So we are going to have that in the nutrition. So all in all, we've talked about a lot of things that we're adding. One thing that I haven't mentioned is treats, right? We're going to also be able to add treats into the nutrition plan. Treats I'm going to refer to as BLTs, bites, licks, and tastes. And with my clients, what I oftentimes give is a recommendation to, depending on your goal, if you have a weight loss goal, we're going to put a weekly budget of 1 treat a week, 1 BLT a week. Anything above that, we start to penalize on the score, which I'll tell you about the score a little bit more moving forward. But we do have this allotment, right? So if you're in a situation that has a lot of temptations, if you're in a situation where at work, in the kitchen, every day they have cookies on the counters, you're allowed to have a cookie, but based on your goal, if you're weight loss, we're gonna have 1 cookie a week, right? So you get to choose which day of the week does that cookie sound most appealing to you. And then if you're a little bit more in weight maintenance, you're up to 1 BLT a day, right? You get a lot more wiggle room because you're not trying to lose weight actively. That one's gonna allow you to have a cookie a day, a BLT a day. And if you're in the weight gain, you're gonna have, we're really not gonna count your BLTs if you're trying to gain weight. So there's that. We're gonna add treats to the nutrition plan based around your goal, and that's gonna give you a weekly budget. That means that you can have stuff that's not on your plan. Most diets just say big no, bad. I'm not gonna say something's bad. I just want you to be deliberate about when you have it and how much you have. A bigger example, something bigger than a BLT or bigger than a treat, is gonna be a loose meal. And it's gonna follow pretty much the same guidelines, a little bit different. Loose meal is gonna be any meal that just doesn't follow the rules we laid out ahead, right? We talked about the food categories and the food and the portion sizes. A loose meal doesn't give a rip about any of that stuff. It might be really excessive. It might just not follow the rules, but you're gonna be allowed a loose meal each week where you don't have to worry as much, right? A loose meal can be eating out. A loose meal can be going to a barbecue and just really, really enjoying the ribs and saying, dude, I'm gonna go back for 3, 4 more servings of those ribs, right? It might be something that's a little excessive like that. It might simply be, hey, I don't really I don't really want to figure out tonight's carbs or balance, and I'm having lasagna and I don't want to think about the balance and I don't want to skew with the ratio. So today is going to be my loose meal. I'm not going to think about it. I'm still going to get the point for that, but it's just my get out of jail free card. Right? Loose meals are going to have a couple options like that. And I like to have that available for the weekends most often for people, or if there's a special event. If you're doing the nutrition by addition system and you're trying to lose weight, you've got a weekly allotment of one loose meal, right? You get one get out of jail free card. If you are doing the nutrition by addition system and you're in maintenance, that budget goes up to 2, maybe 3 loose meals. And then if you're in the weight gain, you get up to 4 loose meals. You still don't want to eat like a jackass because you do want to have health, you do want to feel good, but you get a little bit more leeway if you're looking to gain weight on the program. So that's kind of how you can adjust that. Now, how do we implement this? How do we put this in action? That's a great question because I gave you a lot of information and I want to make it actionable. I want to make sure that you have the tools to be able to put the nutrition by addition system into action. But before I do that, I want to invite you, I want to ask you to be a fellow health rebel by sharing this podcast. If this podcast episode has been helpful for you so far, there's been a lot of information I know, but if this information is helping you redefine your nutrition standards, redefine your approach to healthy living, then I encourage you to share this with somebody. And in fact, if you share it with someone and send me a proof that you did, I'll send you a free gift in your inbox. You just have to email me a screenshot and I'll send you a free ebook. Sound good? If you share this with someone, let me know at steven@healthrebels.us and I'll give you a free ebook. Anyway, how do we implement this? How do we put this in action? Well, that's a great question. For my clients, what I've done is I've devised a nutrition by addition system, an ideal day that ends up being 6 points. Every time you add in a good habit to your day, we're going to add a point to your daily total. So to get a point, there are 3 meals in the day, right? You got breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If you follow the food categories and the portion sizes for each of those meals, each one can get you a point. So if you have breakfast and you have the appropriate amount of carbs, the appropriate amount of protein, and the appropriate amount of plants, congratulations, you get a breakfast point. Lunch, if you get the right amount of protein, the right amount of carbs, and the right amount of plants, congratulations, you get a lunch point. Right? And then same thing with dinner. If you do that, you have the categories, you have the portion size, you get a point for that meal. That's 3 points there. We talked about hydration. If you're hydrated throughout the day, if you're drinking water and you're maintaining, you get a few bathroom trips and they're mostly clear discharge, congratulations, you now have a 4th point. The next 2 points are kind of tied together. There's going to be a point for a snack. Now, snack, depending on how your day is structured, you're going to have 1 or 2 snacks. There's only 1 point available for snacks, even if you have 2 snacks throughout the day. But if you have a good deliberate snack that has some protein, has a fair bit of protein, is deliberately having protein in that snack, I'm going to give you a point. Right? So what that does is that helps us with meal timing. Now, meal timing is something that I promote with my coaching clients. I know it's not supported by the research specifically for weight loss, but meal timing is a great way to manage behavior. It's a great way to manage energy. It's a great way to manage your decision making. It's a great way to elevate quality of life throughout the whole program. So I do promote meal timing with clients, and that meal timing means that you got a 2.5 to 5 hour window between meals, right? So we're not eating too often. We're not eating at noon. We're not eating again at 1:30. We're not having another thing at 3, right? That's too much eating too fast, disrupting the digestion a little bit. And it's just kind of, it's a little too often, not a big fan of that. And that defies the 2.5 hour window, right? Between noon and 1:30 is an hour and a half. 1:30 to 3 is an hour and a half. That is less than the 2.5 hour window. But I also don't want you to go have breakfast at 7 o'clock and then have dinner at 7 o'clock again. That's a 12-hour window, far too much. You're gonna have low energy, you're gonna be really hungry, you're gonna make poor decisions throughout the day. I don't want that either. What I do want is about that 2.5 to 5 hour window, and that's why we use snacks. Snacks help us manage that feeding window a little bit more efficiently, because most people are gonna have lunch about lunchtime, about noon, maybe 1, right? So let's say you have lunch at noon, at 12 o'clock. And then dinner is typically a 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock thing. That gap from lunch to dinner is could be potentially 6 to 7 hours. That's too big. That's too big on that window. That's gonna mess with your energy levels, gonna mess with your decision making, gonna mess with your just quality of life, and it might cause you to overeat at dinner time as well. So we manage that with a snack in the afternoon, right? If you had a snack at 3 o'clock, then that gives you a 3-hour window from lunch to snack, and it gives you a 4-hour window from lunch to dinner, right? So having a snack there helps manage the feeding frequency and the feeding window and your meal timing. So you'll get a meal timing point there. Now, the reason why I said earlier you might have 1 or 2 snacks really depends on how early your lunch is and how late your dinner is. Most people are going to follow some schedule where breakfast is at like 7:30, maybe 8, lunch is going to be noon, snack around 3, dinner around 7, right? That's going to be most people's thing. But in my experience, when I was working at a gym, I was waking up and having breakfast at 4:30 in the morning. I was having breakfast at 4:30 in the morning, and then lunch was at 1 o'clock. The gap between 4:30 in the morning and lunch at 1 o'clock is about 9 hours, and I would start running ragged. I would feel like crap. So at about 9 o'clock, I would have a snack. And what that does is that gives me a 4.5 hour window from breakfast to snack, and it gives me about a 4-hour window from 9 o'clock from snack to lunch, right? And that helped me manage my energy levels, especially at that time, because I was working out at like 11:30 to noon, or about noonish. And so if I didn't have the energy, the workouts really sucked, and I didn't like it. So because my morning started so early and because dinner was so late, I needed to have 2 snacks to manage my meal timing, right? Some of my clients are in similar positions where, depending on your breakfast and dinner times, you may need 2 snacks to manage the meal timing. 2 snacks, not necessary. I'm not one of those people that say you have to have 5 to 6 meals, but I am going to say you need to have 3 meals and 1 to 2 snacks to manage that time window. So all in all, breakfast, lunch, dinner, 3 points, snack, 1 point, meal timing, 1 point, and hydration, 1 point. If you do all of those, ideal day is 6 points. Now let's talk about BLTs and loose meals. A BLT, again, depending on your goal, there's a certain budget or a certain allotment that you just get free, right? Weight loss, we said 1 BLT a week is free, right? So if you're weight loss and you have a cookie on Tuesday, you're good. You don't have to worry about that. You just have to be mindful. You just have to record that you had that, right? Because if you have a cookie again on Thursday, that is now breaking the allotment, that's going over, and you're gonna get a negative 1 point for every BLT you have beyond your freebie. This isn't to punish people, although it does punish your score. It's not to punish or to shame, but it is to be aware and to be honest about what are we having in addition to our meal plan, right? The second thing, loose meals. Your first one is free. You got that get out of jail free card. Every loose meal, every unplanned meal or excess planned meal is going to be negative 2 points, because loose meals tend to be the big indulgences that really wreck people's meal plans. Each meal plan above and beyond your budgeted allotment is going to be negative 2 points. So in example, right, say Monday, we have really good breakfast, really good lunch, really good dinner, we have good snack, good hydration, we manage our meal windows, 6 points, right? We got all 6. Tuesday, same thing. We did really good, but we had a cookie. First cookie free for the weight loss, still 6 points. Wednesday, didn't have the snack, right? So we get a point for the breakfast, point for the lunch, point for dinner, point for hydration, but we do not get a point for the snack. And because we didn't have that snack to manage our feeding window or our meal timing, we don't get the meal timing point either. So that's 4 points. Thursday, we get back, we have a good breakfast. Lunch, we don't do a great job with. We go out with some coworkers. We end up getting a cookie when we get back to the office, so we have a BLT. We do a good snack in the afternoon, and then we have a good dinner at night. This one, we're gonna use that loose meal. We went out with friends, we went out with coworkers for lunch. That's fine, we want to live life, we wanna enjoy things. So we're gonna get a point for breakfast. We're gonna get a free point for lunch. That's gonna be our loose meal allotment. We did have that BLT, which is now our bonus BLT, so that's -1 point. We're gonna get the snack point. We're gonna get the hydration. We're gonna get the meal timing, and we're gonna get the dinner. That brings us to 5 points. 5 points. We would have been at 6, but that BLT, that extra BLT gives us a -1. So we end up with 5, right? Don't wanna go through the whole thing, whole week, but any which way, what we're looking for is an ideal, a picture perfect day is gonna be 6 points. 7 days a week, there's 42 points available. In my system, I'd never expect people to be perfect. So what I'm shooting for with clients is 38 points and above, right? You can get up to 6 points a day. You can get up to 42 points a week. We're looking for 38 points or above. There's wiggle room inside this plan with the BLTs and with the loose meals. And there's additional wiggle room by realizing that we still don't need to be perfect and get a perfect score. 38 out of 42. Super high performance, super high, super glad, super good performance. You're gonna get really good results from that. You're gonna have good energy levels. You're gonna get weight loss over time. You're gonna feel really, really great. And that, after almost 40 minutes, is the entirety of the Nutrition by Addition system. I appreciate you sticking through this throughout. And again, if this was helpful, if this redefined your nutrition standards today, help someone else become a fellow health rebel by sharing this podcast with them. I appreciate you. Thank you for coming in. I'll see you again next week. Have a great week and take care.